Man, I told the whole story without hitting the record button, but don't skip this because this about to tell you everything that's going on with these, what they call Dior bags right now. So this right here is the Apollo disc in Charlotte. The Apollo disc is basically for a copper disc that tells everything that happened throughout the world to get a history of recognition of what's going on. But we can all do that with our cell phones because our cell phones can make us look up anything and create any type of algorithm. So people get stuck in different types of algorithm of the cell. But we are incarcerations. You know what I'm saying? Incarcerations are basically people that's reborn within life to come back in the shell. The shell is hell, which is the body. The body itself is going to take you from heaven to hell depending on the digestive tract, because we all have tissues inside of us. With the tissues inside of us, you know, you wipe doo-doo, mucus, all that with tissue, because those are things that get clogged up. If it get clogged up, it's going to produce something that you can see on the outside. So it's when you call somebody like fat, it's because it's fat development in the body, and that's just doo-doo that has to be flushed out the system. If it's not flushed out the system, it's going to start parasites. With it starting parasites, it makes them more addicted to food. I know this because I was overweight. I was way darker in skin, and until I lost my grandmother, I didn't notice that diabetes was taking over me. And with the diabetes taking over me, I lost over 140 pounds just from God literally like sending Jesus to walk me through this. Jesus was telling me information like you want the God body, what you want the God body. When I started losing weight, other people noticed it before I noticed it. Once they started saying it, it was me shedding skin. Me shedding skin, I lost like a whole 140 pounds, which is another person weight. Another person weight that was carried on to me. When it carried on to me, it was from depression that I didn't even know I was going through. The depression was I was always rushing my life. Me rushing my life, me raised by my grandparents, I thought ahead of everybody else. So while they were celebrating living in the moment, I could never live in the moment because I always knew something was going to happen to my grandparents at some time. And as soon as it happened to my grandma, it snapped. Well, I knew it before they even told me because it was a sense. Like when they called me, I was at work. So when they called me to the phone, they don't never call me to the phone. So I already knew something up. They didn't want to tell me what was going on. So it's like you already building in mind with God letting you know, like, hey, look, you gonna get some news when you get to this phone, but when you get this news, you know this is part of life. This being part of life, that's the life cycle. I got to see my grandma up until I was 23 years old. Well, 22 years old. Yeah, 22 years old because she passed August 1st. So with her passing August 1st, I was 22 at the time. So I got 22 years with her. And then on the 23 is when I started the Jordan Gate, which is literally learning the river of the body and reproducing, like, you know what I'm saying, my method of thinking. So reproducing the method of thinking is because they never give you answers at these funerals. They just tell you things, but then it's an afterlife that happens where they actually graduate and they go to another round. So with her passing in August, after that, you know what I'm saying, the next month is September, I end up meeting this girl I started talking to. Then the next month is October, which was my birthday month, where I started regaining some memories of lost times. And then in November was when I unlocked the gate. This was all in 2013. On the 24th, the day after my niece's birthday, I had got out of jail and saw the 7 seals within the sky. And with seeing the 7 seals within the sky, that switched me into like another dimension where they told me my name was Apollo. So me learning my name was Apollo, I started studying this since 2013 on why I returned. But then when I was 2 years old, like going into age 3 and having my imagination, something already told me that I was reliving life. And reading the Bible, I was getting taught by Moses and Lucifer on who my life was. So Moses was somebody I already lived by. Lucifer was somebody I lived under. That was Venus, Aphrodite. That was the one that started the Trojan War. And that's, again, the 3 curses that I was talking about. Her curse was beauty. Beauty was the curse that got won because Paris chose beauty. When Paris chose beauty, they reminded us that by Paris is a person, that the place is named after. These are people. Then they got places named after them. So Paris, France sent the Statue of Liberty to remind us of the Statue of Limitations, and that is the one that holds the light. That's the light bringer, the enlightener. That's still Lucifer. That's Venus, Aphrodite. That's the whole planet that has to show in the atmosphere. When it shows in the atmosphere, that's letting us know about the revelation that's coming. With the revelation that's coming, it's things changing in the sky because people are getting their old memory back of who they once was. With us getting our memory back of who we once was, Apollo is the truth. I also tell music, inner healing, bow and arrows. Um, it's like other gifts that I left, words, and then I stole prophecies from women. Stealing prophecies from women because the book itself used to detail that women were smarter than men, women being smarter than men. The goddess was created before the men because that's how the gods were created. Titans was created by the goddess at first. Titans was destroyed by the gods. Titans still exist. Those are trees. Those are mountains, volcanoes. Those are storms. Those are different elements that have their own like energy. With them having their energy, they re-showed that we destroyed them again, like how you destroy a tree and then you build a home and now you stand inside the tree, and then they got the Wi-Fi as the electricity flowing inside of the home that's connected to the devices, because they keep taking away gifts that we had and they put it inside of different objects. With it being put in different objects, that make people subjective to those objects, because those objects are now the curses that's put on people. That's why they call these cell phones, and what they call them cell phones, as you can see the reflection, we've been put inside of a prison outside the prison system. You're not in a cell, but you're still in a cell. With you still being in a cell, you're incarceration that's incarcerated. You being incarcerated, they locked us over time. With them locking us over time, time is about to end, because that's a Gregorian calendar that's all misplaced. With it being misplaced, the actual stuff, this is why I'm Apollo. So Mercury is messenger. Hermes, that's one of my cousins. My cousin is somebody I grew up with. My shadow sign, I'm a Libra, but my shadow sign is literally Scorpio. My cousin was a Scorpio, born 28 days after me. That's the same way that the world rotates, because it's off of the moon. The moon is guarded by Artemis. Artemis is my twin sister, but she was born 5 years before me, and 5 years is the advancement of women, because their minds is also 5 years ahead of men. So her being born 5 years ahead of me, she was the one that birthed me in the mythology and also in reality, because that's my sister that's 5 years older than me, that sent me to my grandparents' house when she was 5 years old, because she knew that our parents wasn't going to be able to raise us with the construction that they have, because they had too many people staying in their home. With them having too many people, she already knew the influence of the people that was in that house, and she sent me to my grandparents' house. So I had a whole different change of living. And if you read about Apollo, he was raised by Phoebe and I can't think of his name, Socius, but he go by Apollo Phoebus, because he took the names of them two. And they all have different things that they teach within wisdom. With them teaching things in wisdom, once my grandparents passed, I gained and inherited their wisdom, and it broke chains in my brain to see that we have to leave after we get here. And my grandfather passed the same way as Jesus did. His name being Bobby Joseph is Joseph Hood. That's remind Robin Hood, the Robin. And then Joseph, also the one that raised Jesus. Jesus bled at the brain. My grandfather left the same way, bleeding at the brain. My grandfather before him, he left from cancer hitting his throat, where he had to whisper talk, but he was the one that was a Freemason that converted back to Christ. Because when my sister was born, like when she was 2 years old, is a story about him talking to God the whole time, and she sat there and listened the whole time, and that's how he knew he was talking to God, and he became a prophet. When him becoming a prophet, he would tell us what would happen to people after they passed. He would walk people to a gate. He would put them on trains and different things, and he would tell us which one of the preachers was lying. So we had wisdom already to study the Bible on my own. My grandfather that raised me, Bobby Joseph, was the one that told me to pray to God by myself so I can get the miracles and know the blessings and understand what the prayers is saying. My grandmother that he was married to was the one that told me to find God. My other grandmother that's still living is the Rose. That's the one that keeps me inspired, and that's the one that said that I need to be a minister. So with her saying I need to be a minister, in my childhood mind, I'm thinking I'll be a minister when I'm 40, because they was putting too much pressure on me with reading that Bible and putting all that pressure. I see how now some people are oppressed by the messages, because they also gave me the freedom of choice to do how I should do. And as a kid, I knew too much in the Bible, because I already knew that the tree was just telling us that this book is guiding a lot of people wisdom. With the book guiding a lot of people wisdom, it came from a tree. So I always studied how people thought in human anatomy. So I was learning psychology growing up by looking at other people around me and becoming a watcher, seeing how they would do. And I was writing music to